Several rookies had outstanding performances in Week 10. We'll tell you which ones you should buy on this episode of the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast.
You are Locked On Dynasty Football, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Here are your hosts, Marcus Mosher and Kate Madjuk.
Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use promo code LockedOnNFL to win $50 instantly when you play $5. Welcome back. I am your host, Marcus Mosher. You can follow me on Twitter at Marcus_Mosher. Joining me today, as always, is a very happy Kate Madjuk. You can follow her on Twitter at Kate Madjuk. On today's show, we're going to do our best to avoid talking about the Cowboys and Steelers, our two respective teams, for obvious reasons. But Kate, let's start with some rookies that performed well in Week 10. Who caught your eye?
We actually had a few rookies. I think we should probably start maybe, in New England, where Drake Maye seems to be finding his rhythm. It wasn't a perfect outing for the young rookie, but what was absolutely crazy was to see the juxtaposition of Caleb Williams in the Bears offense opposite Drake Maye in the Patriots offense. And obviously there is no secret. The Patriots receiving core, they're making do with what they have, but it's not a good receiving core, right? Like, to see the juxtaposition of that fluidity on offense under Drake Maye, so encouraging to see, I think, especially when you compare it to the other side of the football.
I agree. Caleb Williams looked rough, and we'll get to Caleb Williams in a second. But Drake Maye, Kate, long-term, how are you valuing him as a dynasty asset? Is he somebody that you actively want to go out and get in the trade market, or are you a little bit more wait and see depending on what the Patriots do this offseason and what weapons they bring in around him?
I mean, here's the thing. He's already been, I think, pretty surprisingly productive despite, the limited weapons around him. Again, not his best game. He's had, a couple of solid games. Best game of the year so far, I think, up against the Jaguars, which, like, their defense, not great. So, you kind of expect him to succeed in that spot, but I love to see the mobility. I love to see the usage of his legs. He has 38 plus rushing yards in 3 of 6 games so far this season. It just adds the ability to extend plays, and it also provides some standalone value while the weaponry around him isn't so talented. So I do think, like, if you were a believer in Drake Maye, you knew he wasn't a perfect prospect coming out of UNC, but you did know that there was a ton of upside there and that he was a really good athletic quarterback. Young, needed to probably work on, some more of the processing and mental aspects of the game, but you knew the physical traits were there. I'm buying in.
Let's talk about Caleb Williams, who you brought up. This was the rough outing. You and I were speculating early in the day that maybe they would bench Caleb Williams after a comment that Adam Schefter made. That's not going to be the case. But I think you and I are both in on Caleb Williams. Is this a time to buy low, or are you just holding, waiting to see what happens here?
I think you're buying low because, again, kind of looking at the surrounding cast, right? Like, I rewatched this game this morning and I thought to myself, it is virtually impossible to evaluate Caleb Williams' performance for what it is because of all these confounding variables, because of the constant pressure. He took 9 sacks in Week 10. I have to imagine he feels like he's been hit by a Mack truck here on Monday. It just makes it very hard to properly evaluate what he could be. We've talked about sort of like some of the stickier stats, right? You don't, how a quarterback performs while under pressure can be kind of variable. Some quarterbacks are generally successful with it, but the only way to truly evaluate a quarterback and their definitive skill set is to see what they do from a clean pocket. And we just haven't had that luxury with Caleb Williams. We know the receiving core, very talented, big fan of Rome Odunze. Love DJ Moore. He's still only 27 years old. Like, we've got plenty of receiving options. Cole Kmet, ton of upside there in the passing game, especially. Like, I love the surrounding cast. And I think when you're thinking like, what is the trajectory of this team? It's going nowhere fast this year, but Caleb Williams is going to withstand the test of time better than that coaching staff will. And I think that's going to be the difference.
Let's talk about another rookie quarterback that performed well in Week 10. Let's talk about Bo Nix, Kate, against Kansas City's defense, one of the best in the league. Bo Nix, 22 of 30 for 215 yards, threw 2 touchdowns. Didn't do much on the ground in this game, but we've seen him be successful before. Bo Nix was somebody who you and I weren't super high, like when we were doing our pre-draft evaluations or pre-draft, like rookie drafts. But I got to say, through the first 10 weeks of the season, I keep moving him up and up and up in my rookie ranking, or sorry, my overall dynasty rankings, because he's been productive despite throwing a majority of his targets to Devon Bailey, Adam Troutman, Lil Jordan Humphrey, Lucas Kroll. It's been pretty rough, yet he's been productive.
He's been very productive. He has had multiple passing touchdowns in 4 of his 6 last games, including a 3 passing touchdown performance up against the Carolina Panthers. Again, not a great defense, but he's doing the things you want him to do. Even up against a defense like the Kansas City Chiefs, like, was measured in terms of his decision-making, still played pretty clean football. And what I think is all the more impressive is that, he still had a pretty solid day, 215 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. And he only had -5 rushing yards on the day. Like, he didn't have a perfect outing. This wasn't a game where you got to see him use his legs much, but was still a quiet performer in a Sean Payton offense, despite the fact that he is super limited in terms of his receiving core. Now, coming out of Oregon, you, Marcus, were a proponent of the fact that his NFL comp could be somewhere around the Jalen Hurts area. Through the first 10 weeks of the season, how do you feel like that comp is holding up?
Great. I mean, you look at what Jalen Hurts did his rookie year, and albeit he was kind of splitting time with Carson Wentz, there were some major concerns I remember coming out of that rookie season, like, hey, Jalen Hurts isn't an NFL quarterback. He's a backup. He needs to switch positions. All of that was nonsense. And what did the Eagles do? They went out and got him more weapons, right? They traded for A.J. Brown. They beefed up the offensive line. Sorry, I think it was the next year, but they added Devontae Smith in the 2021 draft. And all of a sudden, big numbers started to come about. And I've got to believe that Denver is going to do the same thing, right? They're going to be in the wide receiver market. I wouldn't be surprised if they go after T. Higgins, or they try to trade up into the draft and grab a top flight receiver in this class. I think once you get Bo Nix some better weapons, you're going to see even more games like this, Kate. Like, if he continues to have these games where it's 225 total yards and 2 touchdowns week in and week out, surprise, you're a top 10 quarterback. Like, that's just the way that it is.
Yeah, and again, you just love to see that kind of rushing production, which he's kind of put on the board. Again, outside of this game, been super consistent as a runner, which we know is kind of that nice little cheat code. So if you can get that done with your legs, if you can make reasonable gains in the passing game, like, again, just really steady production, 200 plus passing yards in all but 3 games this season. I think generally speaking, you really like to see the trajectory that Bo Nix is on. He's playing really solid football. It's not the sexiest brand of football, but again, when you're thinking long-term in terms of his like overall dynasty value, you have to project forward and think, if I'm the organization, what moves am I going to make to bolster the success of my new rushing quarterback who, hasn't really had a perfect slew of weapons to unlock the arm? I think you can pretty easily, come up with a direction that Sean Payton is going to be heading this offseason. And that direction is going to be toward a wide receiver 1 for his now rookie quarterback.
Or maybe a tight end 1, like a true dynamic tight end that can make plays after the catch. Like, how much could this offense benefit from a Trey McBride type that we saw like last year with Kyler? Like Kyler played really well once Trey McBride broke out. I wouldn't be surprised if that's the direction that Denver tries to go. But just really quickly, as of the October ADP, Bo Nix was QB 20. I'm just going to list the quarterbacks ahead of him. You tell me who you would take. Geno Smith, QB 19.
I'll take Bo Nix.
Justin Fields, QB 18.
Bo Nix.
Trevor Lawrence, QB 17.
That's icky. This is kind of crazy, but maybe Bo Nix.
It's close. Yeah.
It is close. Obviously, you have the generational prospect on one end of things, but on the other hand, I have Bo Nix right now, who is quietly producing as a top 10 quarterback as a rookie with very limited passing options. Like Bo Nix is already producing as a QB1 for fantasy. He has a top 5 finish this season, which again, it was in week, what was 3 weeks ago, week 8. And guess what? That was Trevor Lawrence's also only top 5 finish of the year, and Bo Nix finished ahead of him by a couple spots. So we are getting the production right out of the gate. I trust the coaching staff more. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. Really quickly, Baker Mayfield QB 16, Anthony Richardson QB 14. You start going through these rankings. I'll even say this: Dak Prescott QB 10. If you offered me right now, I have Dak. I would trade him in a heartbeat for Bo Nix. So I don't want to go overboard here, but we're inching closer and closer to Bo Nix being a top 15 dynasty quarterback. And it's not hard to see him being even higher up on that list. Kate, let's talk about some running backs that had big performances in week 10. I want to start with our guy, Audric Estime, who finally took over the backfield in Denver. This is just the Broncos show, apparently. Let's talk about Audric Estime next. This episode is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Our friends over at 5 Hour Energy know that being a passionate football fan isn't just a hobby. It's a way of life. It takes a lot of energy to power through all-day tailgates, touchdown celebrations, or an agonizing second overtime, which is why they've created the Stand the Fan 5 Hour Energy Shot with a special flavor called Fan Fuel, the energy shot made just for super fans like you, the fans who are first in the parking lot, or the fans who are the last to leave. We see you. 5 Hour Energy knows that no matter what team you root for, being a fan requires heart, soul, and a whole lot of energy. Whether you're prepping for a big tailgate or ironing your favorite jersey, your game day to-do list is always a mile long. That's why the limited edition Stand the Fan 5 Hour Energy Shot is here to help you keep fueled throughout the football season. I know as a Cowboy fan, I'm going to need lots of 5 Hour Energy to get me through these next 8 games. That's what's going to be fueling me. Whatever it is, whatever you need to be fueled for, do it with a 5 Hour Energy, available on 5hourenergy.com, shipped nationwide. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. PrizePicks is the best way to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in award winnings, PrizePicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long on PrizePicks. PrizePicks is the best way to get real money daily sports action in over 30 states, including California, Florida, Georgia, and Texas. Plus, it's the only daily fantasy platform with an injury insurance policy, so your lineups stay in play, even if one of your players gets injured. If your player leaves in the first half and doesn't return, PrizePicks keeps your lineup alive. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It is guaranteed. Download the app today. Use promo code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, you'll get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game. Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. Okay, let's talk about Audric Estime, the rookie running back for the Denver Broncos, who finally got some work in this backfield. What was your take on his performance in Week 10 and his value moving forward?
I'm super, super, super excited for Audric Estime because the box score doesn't look great. And I'm going to fully admit that if you're a box score fan, it's not fantastic. Okay. 3.8 yards per attempt this week, 53 total yards, 14 rush attempts. But he looked so much better than that. And I think the biggest takeaway here, perhaps, is just the breakdown of work. We had Sean Payton ahead of week 10 come out and say, I need to get Audric Estime more rush attempts. And guess what? He did 14 carries. Jaleel McLaughlin, 2 carries. Javonte Williams held to just a single carry, gained 1 yard on that rush attempt. Marvin Mims had the same number of carries as Jaleel McLaughlin and Javonte Williams combined. That tells me a lot about how Sean Payton is feeling about the rest of these running backs. And Marcus, we already were big Audric Estime fans. He's a big dude, built like a tank, 5'11", 227 pounds. Over his final 2 seasons at Notre Dame, ranked 96th percentile in PFF rushing grade, 88th percentile among running backs in missed tackles forced per attempt, 90th percentile in yards after contact per attempt, 99th percentile zone rushing grade, 74th percentile in breakaway run rate, which even more impressive considering what he ran a 4.71 40-yard dash. I get that, he doesn't have the high-end draft capital. I think a part of that is due to his athletic testing, but when you watch him on the football field, you forget about all that because he's a good football player.
Yeah, he is a good football player. And we should also mention Javonte Williams in the final year of his deal. I would be shocked, Kate, if he comes back next year, right? It seems like Javonte is going to look for a different situation. Now, we should know he didn't get any work in the passing game, and this was one of our fears coming out of Notre Dame. He's just not a pass catcher, so he's going to have to be efficient in the running game. He's going to have to score some touchdowns, but it was encouraging to see him play and get some work. I want to go to the game in Germany, Kate, the one that hopefully nobody watched. Tyrone Tracy continues to light it up for the Giants. 18 carries for 103 yards and a touchdown. Feel free to comment on him, but I really want to talk about Chuba Hubbard, who just got a contract extension for the Panthers. 28 carries, 153 yards and a touchdown. Also caught 4 passes for 16 yards to give you a little bit of a boost in PPR leagues. Okay, this Carolina backfield is so fascinating because they spent a 2nd-round pick on a running back with a torn ACL, knowing that he was a long-term pick. But now that they've signed Chuba Hubbard, where do they go from here?
I don't know where they go from here, but it seems like you got to follow the money, right? That's kind of usually how it works out. It didn't work out with Miles Sanders. So again, maybe this is going to be the backfield that defies the follow the money mantra. But you're looking at Chuba Hubbard and he's doing exactly what he should be doing. Ranks 13th among running backs in fantasy points per game, 8th in total touchdowns. You're going to admire the heck out of that, considering the fact that this isn't a group that is scoring all that many touchdowns. 3rd in the league in rushing yards. He's getting it done on all fronts. He's involved as a receiver. He's running routes. He looks explosive. He's playing some of the best football in his career. But what kind of scares me about Chuba is that I've always liked Chuba as a running back, right? We saw him perform admirably, not as well as he is this year. But, when asked to step up last year in that sort of hybrid, limited, sometimes you're the workhorse, sometimes you're not role, pretty overall successful. I really liked him coming out of the Oklahoma State. I think this is just this is who Chuba Hubbard has always been, but it's just been hard to get him on the football field. So when I'm considering his long-term prospects in this offense, the fact that he is, paid like a top 10 running back, how am I supposed to reconcile that fact with the fact that they drafted one of the most well-balanced running back prospects in this class? Probably would have gone in the 1st round, I think, if it weren't for that torn ACL. How do I make these two things combobulate? I don't.
Well, so here's the hard part, okay? Going into October, and I'm sure this has changed, Jonathon Brooks was RB 13 in Dynasty leagues. Since then, Chuba Hubbard has ripped off 550 rushing yards in the month of October. It's around there. And now has gotten a contract extension. What do you do here?
I mean, here's the thing. Jonathon Brooks not going to be useful to you in his rookie season. So there's that problem.
By the way, I don't know if you saw the quote because this just happened a little bit ago. They asked Dave Canales about why didn't they play him this week, because he was a full participant in practice all week long, and they said he worked out on Friday, and we just came together as a group and said he wasn't ready to go.
That's scary.
I know ACL injuries are major injuries, but like we are past a year at this point, and for a 21-year-old running back to not be ready, I'm worried.
Now, let's be clear. I do think they have a little bit of luxury in terms of like time, right? This isn't a competitive team that you're going to try to rush him back if you don't feel like he's all in, ready to go, and feeling at 100%, especially considering the fact that this is, you know, a team that, again, has a very high performing running back working behind him. But it just kind of, you know, it's almost like and I'm not at all like trying to overreact to this situation, but this is in the back of my mind. What if it does end up being one of these situations like a Trey Lance where, you know, he just kind of falls to the back plan because things are working as they're working, and you don't want to disrupt the current flow that you've got going on to throw in a rookie into the mix or, throw the young guy in there when you have a recipe that's working. Like, I don't know.
I think the difference is that you can play two running backs, right? And that's the thing that you couldn't do with Trey Lance. But at the same time, you were drafting Jonathon Brooks high in the first round of your rookie drafts because you thought that he was going to be, by year 2, a full-time starter. Yeah. Now that Hubbard is playing this well, he's third in the NFL in rushing yards behind Derrick Henry and Saquon Barkley. You know he's not going to be out of the equation anytime soon, right? Like, you know he's going to be a part of this backfield. If we had to redraft him, where do you think he goes in rookie drafts? Is he even a first-round pick?
I think he's probably closer to a second-round pick. And then you're looking at other, second-year or first-year running backs. Like, let's say in your rookie drafts, one player we're seeing trending up right now, Trey Benson, running back for the Arizona Cardinals, a guy we really liked coming out of FSU, but we knew didn't have an immediate pathway to production. Like, there was no doubt that James Conner was going to be the guy in Arizona, but we're starting to see as the year goes on, Trey Benson's getting more work. So, like, I think that might give Trey Benson the edge here in terms of
it's wild
dynasty value, right?
I mean, Trey Benson's already he's starting to make a bigger dent in this backfield, as we saw this week. And we should mention him really quickly. I think he led the Cardinals in touches or rushing yards. I don't remember off the top of my head. But this was the best I think he's ever looked. And they're clearly starting to transition this backfield to being more of a 50-50 split. As for Carolina, they're paying the other running back, and he's getting 32 touches in a big game for them. So we're in a tough spot with Jonathon Brooks.
Yeah, I think at this point, I'm going to give the edge here to Trey Benson, who I think is just a really talented running back. I love his, toughness in his running style, of his, contact balance. Like, he's got a lot to offer there. And you know what he also has to offer? He has like an immediate pathway to production starting right there at the tip top of the 2025 season with James Conner, a pending free agent. And I think that that's why we're starting to see some more of that work for Benson as they just kind of look toward the future. It's a fascinating development here.
All right, okay, let's talk about a couple rookies where we might be panicking. And Xavier Worthy is at the top of that list for me. We'll get to him next. This episode is brought to you by Omaha Steaks, a personal favorite of mine. Nothing delivers comfort and joy quite like the unrivaled quality of Omaha Steaks. This year, skip the holiday hustle and bustle and save 50% off gourmet steaks site-wide at omahasteaks.com. Plus, get a $30 reward card when you shop early, and you can score an extra $30 off with promo code NFL. With 5 generations of experience, they consistently deliver the world's best steak experience, and the gifting experts at Omaha Steaks have made it easy to deliver the perfect gift with thoughtfully curated gift packages starting at only $89.99. From legendary steaks to mouth-watering desserts and more. Save 50% off site-wide at omahasteaks.com. Plus, our listeners can get an extra $30 off with promo code NFL and a $30 reward when you shop early. That's 50% off at omahasteaks.com and an extra $30 off with promo code NFL. Minimum purchases may apply. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. For your second listen, check out the new Locked On NFL show. 2 shows every single day, one in the morning with Tyler Rowland, one in the afternoon with Tony Wiggins for some real NFL talk. Probably the only other 2 NFL hosts out there that understand what kind of struggle I'm going through this year with the Cowboys, but that's okay. Go check them out. They do a fantastic job. Kate, let's talk about some players that we are concerned about. And I want to start with Xavier Worthy in Kansas City. He had 4 targets in this game, 1 catch for 11 yards. It's really been a struggle for him this year. Only 20 receptions, despite this team having nothing at wide receiver. How concerned are you about Xavier Worthy moving forward?
I think moderately. I'm not like totally hitting the panic button, but I am on notice, right? And we don't always see rookie receivers come out and dominate out of the gate. Like he's getting the opportunities, he's on the field, he's running routes. All of that is good. I mean, in the past 2 games, he has run 40 routes and 39 routes. That ranks first and second among his route totals all of this season, respectively. And he's still not producing. And that's what's scary. 2 targets in week 9, 3 targets in week 3, 11 total receiving yards. Like that's not going to get it done. And what I think I am concerned about just in general is the fact that, they're not force feeding him the ball despite, some of these opportunities. We saw with Rashee Rice, for example, slow start to his rookie season, did become clear that they were going to need him to step up in a key role in the passing game in the second half of the season. And you saw that usage increase dramatically. Worthy's on the field, but they're finding other ways to get it done. And that gives me a little bit of pause. I love Xavier Worthy. He's a very talented wide receiver, and he's more than just speed. But you also have to see targets and usage in order for that to come to fruition.
I will say it's not all his fault. There was a play yesterday where he got open by 2 or 3 yards down the sideline. Should have been a walk-in touchdown, and Mahomes just threw the ball out of bounds. It wasn't even close. I know the wind had some of that. It was very windy yesterday in Kansas City, but we saw last week Xavier Worthy was open again, and he just didn't do a good job of adjusting to a pass that should have been a touchdown. Couldn't get both feet in bounds. So their connection just hasn't been great. I do feel confident that in the offseason, they're going to get it fixed and they'll work it all out. But by then, Rashee Rice will probably be back into the equation at some point. I wouldn't be surprised if they draft another receiver. Maybe Hollywood Brown comes back. I'm still in on Xavier Worthy, but I think my expectations of the ceiling or my thoughts about his ceiling are getting lower and lower every single week.
Yeah, and I think that's very, very founded in terms of what we've seen so far. How about let's talk about another player. Maybe we're panicking. This isn't a player we got to see play in week 10, but I want to talk a little bit more about Trevor Lawrence, who dealing with an injury right now. It's not really super clear to me what his status is. But again, one of these guys that just we kind of keep holding on to, right? And he's a generational prospect, right? Like, what am I supposed to do with Trevor Lawrence if I'm the Trevor Lawrence manager? Is it too soon to give up? Because
I wouldn't give up. It's just he's a complete hold right now until we get a new coaching staff in Jacksonville. Did you see the answer that Doug Peterson gave in his press conference? They asked him about the final play of the game. The Jags were down by 5, and they ran this really weird play. And a reporter asked him about it, and he said, I don't want to go through the play because you wouldn't understand. Like, he is fighting for his life right now.
That sounds like that was so bad that I don't have any explanation.
It was, I don't want to explain it to you because you wouldn't understand, which to me, you're probably right. Like,
she goes to another school. Like, that's that vibe.
There's going to be a new coach in Jacksonville next year. Now, whether that coach is able to make Trevor look better than what he's played, I don't think Trevor's played all that poorly this year. The situation's been bad, but now he's dealing with a shoulder injury that could cause him to miss a significant chunk of time. This is 3 years in a row where he's missed at least a couple of games. I'm concerned, but I'm not panicked. Does that make sense?
Okay. I mean, I feel good about that because I went out there. I traded some I traded for some shares of Trevor Lawrence, and I gotta say I'm a little bit anxious right now, but I don't think you can do anything but hold, I suppose.
Yeah, it's not great. All right, that is it for today's show. We want to thank you for making Locked On Dynasty Football your first listen every single day. On tomorrow's show, we're going to break down all of the action for Monday Night Football, so make sure you tune into that. But we're also going to look at some schedules that could be very beneficial to you over the next couple of weeks, especially as we get into the playoffs. So make sure you download the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We are free to available on all platforms. Follow Kate on Twitter at Kate Modjuk. I'm at Marcus _Mosier, and we will see you right back here tomorrow.